All right, let's see what happens here. I'm going to go over some diminished shapes. We know diminished shapes. Right? Here's the first one I ever learned. It's B, D, F. And the way I extrapolated, this is the first one I learned, B, D, F. Was when I extrapolated, I knew the C major, A minor. So I extrapolated my triads. I knew I had A minor. So let's just hit the next three notes that are all in that key. Didn't know what this thing was called. I just knew that I loved it. Yeah, I just extrapolated. I didn't know it was a diminished chord. I just knew that I liked it a lot. And that was the shape. So I discovered that there were a bunch of these shapes all over the fretboard in different, adjacent strings. I am not even going to go into the subject of like creating a diminished triad, a diminished triad out of non-adjacent strings. I'm just doing some shapes. So you can see that you have these shapes. I've kind of marked them off there. 3-note shapes. So I'll go over some of them. Let's see, there's a blue one in the lower right of that diagram. So it's BDF. BDF. It's BDF, the blue one in the lower. It's the lower left of that diagram. So in harmonic minor, you have a doubly diminished seventh, right? A raised. Right? In harmonic minor, you have the raised seventh chord, the G sharp in A harmonic minor, G sharp, B. Well, I've skipped the D. I put in the F. So it's technically F, G sharp, B. They're all notes in that. So you can go by every third fret, right? And each time you shift, then you're getting different 3 notes. Okay, so F, G sharp, B, G sharp, B, D, B, D, F. The string always slides off on this guitar for me. B, D, F, B, D, F. Ooh. Anyway, so I had this, right? The 1 and the 2 in the A minor. The A minor and the B diminished. Okay, so if you could move over to the A minor, that is A, C, E, the inversion, then there's another way of getting your BDF. The same over here. A, C, E, B, D, F. notes, right? It's too bad you can't see it. Okay, how about this one here? This is let's see, it's part of an E major chord, right? E7. Now you can do the D. Now remember, when you have a 7th chord, you know, your major chord with a minor 7th, just everyone calls it a 7th chord, E7, G7, whatever. The higher 3 notes form a diminished triad if you lose the root. Let's see. G sharp, B, D. G sharp, B, D. So, with the root being E. So you just throw off the root. What I'm saying is you can always substitute a diminished triad for a 7th chord. You know, the 3rd of a 7th chord. Like, for instance, a G sharp diminished off of an E7. You can just throw out the E, especially as a guitar player, because the bass player is supposed to handle the roots, or that's what somebody told me once. Okay, so we go up here, we have an E. But if we just take these, G sharp, B, D, G sharp, B, D. And remember, when you're in harmonic minor, you can just slide 3 frets, your diminished shape, and you will be in key. How about this shape? A B, D, it's a G sharp, B, D, G sharp, B, D. It's just a simple triangle. What if you take this shape, any of these diminished shapes, and you slide, instead of 3 frets, every 2 frets? The diminished shape, the diminished, is always going somewhere, is leading somewhere. You can throw it in anywhere as far as I'm concerned. Well, you might like it, I might like it, some people might not like it. Anywhere, anytime, but you really can kind of put it anywhere. It'll funkify your sound. It's dank, man. It's just so dank. And it not only is, you know, I keep hammering on harmonic minor, but it's really a big part of blues, being the upper 3 notes of a 7 chord. In my opinion, it's sort of Led Zeppelin-y. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion, but what if I'm in G blues? I'm doing a G7. And a C7 and a D7. Okay, so. But what if we played a G7 chord, instead of having the 7 up here, the F on the high E? We put the F on the low E. And just play those bottom. Or even went up and played 5 out of the 6 strings. Just don't worry about the high E. What if we played 5 out of 6? Okay, so in a G blues, oops. See, is not playing the roots of any of the 1, 4, 5. It's playing a diminished that's based off the third. In the case of G, it would be BDF, B being the third of the G major chord, with G7, BDF. So let's see, we're going to have a B flat. No, we're going to have an E flat. No, it's going to be an E. C major, the C7 is going to have an E as its third. Right? E, E, G, B flat. So F sharp, A, C. That's the F sharp, A, C. That's the diminished based off of the D7. Right. Another way of looking at it is here's your D. So that blues thing, I mean that diminished shape used in blues is it's very mighty, right? So if you have an E7, for instance, it's the fourth, you can do this triangle shape. It's not in my diagram. Here it is. In the case of the E that I was talking about, it's a B note on the G string, a D note on the B string, and a G sharp on the E. You can do that off of any of the, you know, the 7 chord, like you learn E, right? Turn it into an E7, and then somebody shows you that you can bar it. So wherever you are, go up 4 frets from the root. Right, you went up to a C sharp from an A. You know D7, right? So that's kind of the way that goes. It's a very versatile shape, and you don't have to think of it, in my opinion, as being specifically for harmonic minor. And another thing is, wherever you play a diminished shape, at least one of the notes is going to be in the key that you're in at that moment, unless, the only exception I know of is if you're in melodic or harmonic minor, like we'll take A minor. There's a diminished chord that you can do, a G. G. Let's see. In an inverted G, G, B flat, D flat, G, B flat, D flat. None of those notes are in A harmonic minor or melodic minor. So that's one place where you could play a diminished triad and not be in key. You know, there's other keys, right? I'm just talking basically your basic major, minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor. If you were in major or natural minor, any diminished shape that you play, one of the notes will be in key. It's only in the harmonic and the melodic that there's one spot where you can play. It's just below that raised seventh. If that's your root, there's one spot you could play a diminished shape and not be in key at all. Otherwise, you always have 1, 2, or 3 notes that are in key with what's going on. Like even in a key with no sharps or flats. Right, A minor, B diminished. They're all in key. Well, B flat diminished has an E in it. And A diminished has a C and an A. Anyway, there's all these diminished shapes. They're all over the fretboard. I didn't really get to all of them in that drawing. But you can have a lifetime of exploration regarding diminished shapes. And another way of using it is not just the step by step, right? But what if you, instead of going by threes, you went 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. There's all kinds of ways of playing with diminished shapes. And if you're a shredder, it's even better, right? I'm just giving you the basics of the theory. Well, maybe shredding is not always best, but... And what if you did it every 4th fret? Okay, that's longer than I intended to go, but I wanted to cover this impetuous topic.